Have you heard of all these horror stories from home buyers either being unrepresented or misrepresented on buying their home? Have you been a victim of this same type of experience? Well, no more. We've created the 4 phases to buying a home in North Texas Home Buyer Masterclass. This is where we're going to outline the entire home buying journey. And we're going to start with the 4 phases. Number one is strategy. Our goal here is to get you ready to search for that home. Phase number two is searching, right? Our goal is to find your home and go under contract, moving us into phase three, which is the contract, where we need to do any type of negotiation and really just finalizing that purchase to get you to the fourth phase, which is the most exciting one. The goal is to move into your new home. So let's break down each of these phases, each of these steps, so that way you have all the information while you're purchasing a home here in the North Texas area. Strategy. Remember, our goal here is to get you ready to search for the home. This is where we have to establish a game plan. This can either be with a strategy Zoom call or even as just a strategy session here in our office. And this is going to be about 45 minutes where we really dig deep on your non-negotiables, right? What are you looking for? How many beds? How many baths? 1 story, 2 story, HOA, amenities of the neighborhood. This is where we break down anything and everything. This is where I ask you and or your spouse to come to the table already ready with that information. So then that way we can really just dive into starting to look for your home. We also have to establish a timeline. As a home buyer, you either need to sell a home, which that's a whole nother conversation that we got to get ready for that we can guide you through as well. Or if you're in a lease, we got to determine when that lease is up. Now, if you're coming to us 30 days prior to your lease being up, well, it's probably not the ideal timeline, which you may need to establish whether you can go month to month. So then that way it gives you plenty of time not to rush and not to be part of these horror stories where you were rushed into a home and a year later you hate it. So this is where we define that ideal timeline. We also have to get you into arranging for financing, right? Put aside the cash needed to cover the down payment, closing costs. This is where you need to really have a mortgage loan officer in your corner to go over that mortgage strategy. And if you need recommendations, we have some amazing loan officers that we can introduce you to see who's the best fit for you. Now, a lot of these loan officers have already worked with some of our buyers and they've just raving fans and love them. But you can, if you already have one picked out, no problem. We can still assist you with any mortgage loan officer that you decide to team up with, right? There cannot be any credit fluctuations in this process. So you really need to just follow the guidance of that loan officer that you decided to hire and that you trust, right? Now, as you're applying for a mortgage, there are some things that you need to avoid. And the do nots is what we call them. Do not change your bank accounts. Do not apply for new credit cards or any or close any credit accounts. Don't apply for new credit lines, right? Don't make any type of large purchases like a new car, furniture, appliances. Do not co-sign on any loans for anybody. Do not deposit cash into your bank account without speaking to your mortgage loan officer. And the reason and the importance of this is because cash has to be tracked where it came from. So there always has to be a paper trail. So now we do understand life happens. Something may send you a curveball and you have to purchase a new car. Well, guess what? You just need to talk with your mortgage loan officer and decide if it's okay to purchase that home so that it doesn't delay or really stop you from purchasing a home. The next step, we got to start search for potential homes. As your agent, we're going to narrow down your search and schedule house viewings. This is where we're going to take all the criteria, your non-negotiables, the price range that you've discussed and strategized with your loan officer, and we're going to just start sending you homes that meet those details from our home portal. Now, when we send you these emails and you say, I like 123 Main Street, 246 Main Street, you got to send our team a text message and say, hey, we would like to go see these properties. That's where you list out the properties and let us know what your schedule looks like. That way we can do our initial due diligence and reach out to the listing agent to ensure, do they have offers? Are they already working something? Is it already under contract? And really find out the details of the seller, and that way we can go and schedule these homes. Now, there'll always be a team member of ours available to go show you these homes. Now, if you send us a text message and say, hey, I'm standing in front of this house and we need to come see it and open the door, honestly, it's not going to happen. Unfortunately, I don't own a jet or a helicopter to get over there in 20 minutes. So really, we ask that you send and be flexible with at least half a day to a day notice. So then that way we can, like I said, do our due diligence and ensure that we're not wasting your time nor ours and going to see properties that are actually available that meet your needs, your location, the price, and all the features that we've discussed. All right. Our next phase 2, is searching. This is where our goal is to actually find your home. All right. We're going to go tour homes either in person, or if you're relocating from out of town or out of state, we can set up virtual showings via Zoom, via FaceTime, Facebook, WhatsApp, whatever. We have those availability, those options and tools available. So that way you don't have to fly in. Now, if you do, great, we can still assist you. And when we know when you're flying in and things like that, we can adjust our schedules to be available for you to spend that time looking for the homes. But this is when we are starting to tour homes. When you see a home from our list, or whether you're on another platform like Zillow or Redfin, Realtor.com, Homes.com, text us those addresses. And so that way, like I mentioned before, we can do our due diligence and make sure we can get those scheduled for you to see. Next step is making a smart offer, right? Different homeowners, different people value different things. So this is why you trust us to represent you, to guide you, because our job is to help find out what they are, what those values are from that home seller, and use them to negotiate to our advantage. Now, you may be thinking that we need to offer the highest and the best price. Now, depending on the market, depending on the neighborhood, yes, there are multiple offers still on homes where that's where we'll strategize a little bit more prior to us putting an offer in, because sometimes prices, that's what gets us noticed. But it doesn't mean we have to overpay for a home that isn't worth it, right? Price isn't everything, but it is one thing that will get our offer noticed above other ones. I think the most important thing are going to be the next two that we discuss, are the terms to get the deal in timing and convenience, right? Offering convenient terms for that homeowner, for that seller, can often get us a deal even if the price isn't the highest. And then timing and convenience. Sometimes sellers need the money from the sale of their home to make arrangements where they're going next, whether they're purchasing another home. So then sometimes us offering them a seller temporary leaseback, meaning we close on the home and they get to stay in for maybe a week or two or whatever we negotiate, to give them time to take those funds, make the arrangements on their next move, and give them time to move out. So, what happens after we submit these offers and it gets accepted? Well, that means you're officially under contract to buy that home. Our team will help you make arrangements to drop off the earnest money and the option monies to the title company, which must be done within 72 hours of going under contract. Earnest money and option money are negotiable. Those aren't set figures, but that's where we'll strategize as we put in the offer to make sure we put the right amounts there that are going to get us noticed. These are part of the terms of the contract, and this will eventually be appealing to that homeowner, to that seller, and them know that we're serious about purchasing their home. Next phase is the contract, right? Our goal is to negotiate and just finalize this purchase. So once we're under contract, we have those 72 hours to deliver the monies to the title company, right? The earnest and the option. But we also need to schedule the inspection. We have here in North Texas what we call an option period. This is where you're paying that option money to the seller. It could be a certain amount that we discussed later, and you're having X amount of days to do your due diligence, to hire an inspector to go out and ensure the condition of the home, right? These dates aren't set, but it's whatever we state in the contract. It can be 4 days, it could be 7 days, whatever we decide to put in there. We need to schedule this inspection ASAP. That way we still have time to receive that report, review it, and make a list and negotiate anything that needs to be replaced or repaired, right? This is part of the next step, which is the negotiation. So once we do receive that, report, what I tell my clients and my buyers all the time is we can negotiate anything, right? But the thing is, if we're sending the homeowner, a seller, put yourself in their position. If we're sending them a list of 200 things to be fixed, they're going to freak out and they're going to say no. So what I like to do and what I like to educate my home buyers are, we need to really look at the importance of the 5 major components of a home, which is the roof, the HVAC, the foundation, electrical, and the plumbing systems, right? This is where we'll do our best to negotiate the seller addressing these items. Now, when we do submit these requests, there are options that both you and the seller have. The seller can either replace or repair everything that we ask for. We can request a credit towards closing, which we really need to have some estimates from some licensed contractors. So then that way you can address it afterwards. And the way that works is if we send a amendment to the seller saying, hey, these items are important to us, it's going to cost about $4,000. We would like that as a credit. What happens is that gets deducted from your overall bottom line cash to close. So essentially, you're keeping that money in the bank account. So then that way you can hire your own trusted contractors to fix or replace the items of importance. But we can also terminate and continue searching for another home. If it looks like the house is falling down based off that inspection report and you want to terminate, you have that option to do so and get your earnest money back. And we just continue the process of searching for that right home in a better condition. Next, after we surpass the option period, if we've negotiated what we needed to, if anything, or you're just ready to move forward, you're moving along, purchasing this house, this is where your mortgage lender will order the appraisal, right? This is a report highlighting the estimated value of the property that's completed by a qualified and licensed third-party appraiser. This is where the lenders rely on this appraisal to validate that the home is of value and ensure they're not lending you more than what the home is worth. So let's say the appraiser goes out. What happens? Once we receive that valuation back from the appraiser and the lender, a few things can happen. If the appraisal comes back meeting the value, meaning whatever we offered on that home, if we're under contract for $400,000 and the appraisal came back in at $400,000, great. Nothing to do. We move forward. Now, let's say if that appraisal comes back at $450 and you're under contract for $400, guess what? Congratulations, because you're purchasing a home and moving into it with instant equity. Now, there is a downside. Should the appraisal come back anything less from the sales price, this is where our team will try and negotiate, bringing that sales price down to the value. Once again, there are options. When this happens, when an appraisal comes in lower than what we're under contract for on the price, we will try our best to negotiate with the seller to come down. But if there's a huge gap, sellers may say no. So what happens at an instance is, one, you can either pay the difference, we can negotiate and try and meet somewhere in the middle, or we just terminate the contract and start this process all over again on another house that we find in the future. Closing. This is getting us closer to getting your keys. All right. Our goal here is to move you into your home. So once we've passed the inspection period, once we've passed the appraisal and all that checks out, it's just a waiting period. Your lender's going to be requesting different things and that they need on their end. The title company is going to start requesting things that they need on their end to get you to the closing table. We will help you send you some insurance referrals because you're going to need homeowners insurance. And if you're escrowing it, your mortgage lender is going to need that details of that policy. So we can give you some amazing recommendations, just like we did on lenders or inspectors or anybody that you're needing. Doesn't mean you have to use any of them. You can get your own insurance agent to get you that policy, but that policy needs to be sent to the mortgage lender if you're escrowing that part of it. Next is getting your utilities on. So our team has a utility concierge where we can help you with getting electric set up, water, gas, if there's gas in the house, the internet, your cable, home security, all those things. And we'll also send you some recommendations on some local movers in case you're looking to hire them. So that way you don't have to do the heavy lifting and move yourself into your new home. The day before we go to closing, we'll perform what we call the final walkthrough. This is where we go back to the property, we do another walkthrough and look at the house and just ensure that if we did have anything that was getting repaired or replaced, even though we asked for repair invoices and paid receipts before closing, we still want to go make sure that it looks good, that they actually did replace or repair the items that we negotiated. Now, you can hire the inspector again to go do another check on those certain items. That you just have to get with the inspector to see what kind of charge that is. But it's not necessary that you got to do that. But we're also going to just keep looking around the home because we need to make sure that this home, before you sign on the dotted line, is in the same or better condition from when we went into contract, right? People are human. When they're moving out, when they're moving furniture, things may happen, right? Well, if we see a hole in the wall that wasn't there because something was covering it up and it wasn't in the inspection report either, this is where we have to negotiate for that seller to get those items addressed before we go and close. Now, living in North Texas, we do have some wild type of weather, typically hail. I'm sure you've seen all the headlines and news stories about hail. Don't let that deter your decision on moving to North Texas, but because there's crazy weather conditions anywhere that you go. But let's say there's a hailstorm that came through. Well, guess what we're going to do? We're going to send out a roofer out there, or you can send one that you know of to just inspect that roof. Because if that roof got damaged during a hailstorm that you are under contract purchasing, well, guess what? It's not in the same or better condition. So then we need to go back to the negotiation table and ensure that you get that roof addressed prior to going to closing. Because if we don't do these type of things, guess what? That roof could not be insurable down the road, or on the next storm, if something happens, your insurance company may say, sorry, that was prior to you even owning this house. So that's why the final walkthrough is so important. And obviously, during this whole entire process, we're going to know these things when you hire us, because if the hailstorm hit 15 days while under contract, well, guess what? We're sending that roofer and that contractor out there to inspect it and see it. So we're not waiting till the final walkthrough. But this is what a final walkthrough is for. Now, one of the last steps, the most exciting one, is completing the closing process. It's closing day. We've already surpassed. It's been about 30 days. That's the typical timeline from when you go under contract to when you close on a property, is about 30 days. Can it happen sooner? Yes. Can it take longer? Yes. That's why you're hiring professionals like ourselves to guide you through this process, because there are contractual things in the contract and timelines and deadlines that we have to meet. And if you're ever in default, things could fall through, or you could get sued if the seller takes that type of legal action. So, completing the closing process. It's now closing day. Like I mentioned, we've surpassed the inspection period. Everything went good. We're moving forward. Appraisal came back great. No issues. We're down to the wire. We've already done our final walkthrough. And now closing day. This is where you're going to sign off on all the closing paperwork at either a title company, a local title company, or via mobile notary. So we can always have that title company send you a mobile notary to your job. Like I mentioned, if you're relocating out of state, we can send it to your house or even a coffee shop in your area to get you that closing. Closing typically takes around 30 minutes to an hour. It just depends on the amount of paperwork that you have to review and sign. This is also the opportunity to ask any and all questions as we're signing. The title companies do great at explaining every document that you're signing. A lot of them are repeatable, meaning the title company's attorneys have it worded one way, your mortgage lender's attorneys have it worded their way, and they both essentially mean the same thing. But they're covering their you know what's. And so they're sometimes these closing packets could be large. Once you finish signing, the sellers also have to sign on their time at the title company or with the mobile notary. Then what happens is all that paperwork goes back to your lenders, underwriters, and processors, and they just got to make sure that everybody crossed the T's and dotted the I's. We're not missing any type of signatures. Doesn't mean they can change anything, but they're just ensuring that everything is done. Once that happens, that is the final approval. That means we have funded. They have sent their money to the title company and we are funded, meaning you are the official new home owner. This is when at this time we can hand over the keys so that you can start moving in, unless we have a lease back, which if we do have a temporary seller lease back, let's say for a week, you'll still get a copy of the key. You just can't move in until they move out, right? But we're here to help you through every single process. We are not here to overwhelm you. Our job is to help ease your minds and guide you through this process of finding the home so that you're at least less stressed. I'm going to be totally transparent and honest. You're going to have a little bit of stress because this is there's tons of emotions that you're going through, but our jobs are to help eliminate most of that for you, right? We will not find your dream home by accident, which is why we focus on a proven process with our clients. We've have ton of experience. I have helped hundreds of clients, and all that experience has helped us build a robust process for you. We work utilizing a team-based approach with specialists in each area of the transaction, whether when we're meeting for our strategy call, when we're showing you homes, when we go under contract that gets moved to our transaction coordinator specialist to make sure we stay on timeline and make sure we're not missing any of these deadlines of an importance. And so we have a team-based approach, which gives you the ultimate unfair advantage. Now, I know this is a lot of information, and you may be thinking, what now? What is this going to cost, and how does everyone get paid? Well, when hiring us to represent you, you're ensured to get the right representation to guide you through every step of the home buying journey. There's three parties that are represented and get paid. Buyer's agent. That's us representing you as a home buyer, finding and guiding you through the home. The listing agent represents the homeowner and the seller. And then there's a neutral third party that represents the contract, which is typically the title company and the escrow officer. So what does this cost and how do we get paid as your buyer's agent? Well, there are two ways as your agent that we can get compensated. Prior to us going under contract, we will try to negotiate with the seller or their agent to see if they're offering any type of compensation for us. When they don't, and should their seller or their agent not offer this compensation, well, then you have as the buyer be responsible for our compensation at closing, which we'll discuss as we onboard you as a client and sign our initial paperwork. I hope this home buyer masterclass has been of education to you to help guide you and walk through your process. Feel free to watch it as many times as you want, print out the guide, and respond to us, reply with any questions that you have. But if you're ready to get onboarded as our client, just reach out to us. Let's talk and let's get the paperwork out of the way so we can start searching for your new home. Thank you again for joining us during this masterclass. As mentioned before, if you have any questions, send us a reply, get in contact with us, and we're here to help your home buying journey be the best experience that you have.